from
and
Hebrew.
Hebrew.
Okay. We are live. So, thank you for everyone for joining. We have 3 people streaming in. Okay, we had some technical difficulties. We'll just apologize to those who are coming in a little late. I'll recap the beginning once. I'll recap from the beginning. We'll just get through. So right now we're in the middle of discussing the significance of the spinning motion of the dreidel. So this is source number 7, quoted from the Sefer Ta'amei HaMinhagim. That's also another Sefer, another compendium of Jewish minhagim and the reasons behind them, the sources for many of the many customs that we have. So he discusses the difference between a grogger, which we use on Purim, and a dreidel. So he says that a grogger is spun from the bottom, right? It has a handle, spin thing on top, spins around to make a noise, as opposed to a dreidel, which we spin from on top. So he says, we'll read it. The reason why we play with a dreidel on Hanukkah and a grogger on Purim is because on Hanukkah there was only a heavenly awakening, as the Jews as a nation did not respond properly in tshuva. God saved them in His mercy. This is symbolized by the fact that we hold the dreidel on top. On Purim, the Jews awaken themselves by fasting and mourning, and therefore we hold the grogger by its lower end. So the placement of where the spinning comes from is representative of what where the miracle came from. Additionally, so the miracle of Hanukkah was really a nace from above. It was a miracle from above. God clearly made the candles last for longer than they were supposed to last. So that was a clear intervention from God, as opposed to on Purim, where you have to really look. You have to put the whole story together in order to see God's hand, and you see the people coming together to pray, to save the Jewish people. So it really started from the bottom up, and that is why we shake the grogger from the bottom, as opposed to on Hanukkah, where we spin from the top, because it was really a top-down kind of miracle.
I was just thinking to add to that idea, which is a really nice idea, is, dreidel, once you spin it from the top, it kind of goes by itself for a while. The grogger really has to kind of keep the momentum going.
Very good.
It stops turning your hand, like the thing kind of stops. So it's
really nice.
Our own actions, like we have to kind of keep it going, but the dreidel, historically, he spins the dreidel, so like it's got enough momentum to keep going for a while.
Very beautiful. Yeshua. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I like that. Okay.
True.
When you publish your Sefer, very good. Yeshua. Okay, thank you.
Right.
Okay, so that is number 1, the difference between Hanukkah and Purim. So the next source, number 8, on page 3, is a quote from Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, one of the great Hasidic masters. So he says that really the whole world is like a dreidel. Why is the whole world like a dreidel? Because we know the world revolves, the world rotates, the globe actually spins. And so he says this is representative of our he says this is our lack of understanding of what goes on in the world. What goes up comes down. The people who start on high eventually go low. We can't understand why certain things can attain kedusha. Some things are tamei, some things are kadosh. So he says he actually has a whole interesting philosophy. He says that it's completely not allowed to study any works of philosophy. Even looking at the books of Maimonides. I mean, even the great Jewish thinkers who came before him. He says what a Jew needs to have. A Jew just needs to have simple emunah, simple faith in God, that there is one God spinning the world. And as soon as you get into the questions, many times you'll find that the questions are greater than the answers. And so, but we better not to get involved in these things, and to just recognize who is spinning the dreidel from the top. And then he goes. And he says, we'll read source number 8, the universe is a spinning top on which everything turns and is transformed. Right now, one thing may be highest, and it is considered a head, while that which is at the bottom is called a foot. But when they spin around again, the head will become a foot, and the foot a head. Men will become angels, angels will become men. Everything in the world is a dreidel, moving in a circle, For in truth, they are all one in their root. Everything goes back to God's plan. We can't understand who starts on top, who starts on bottom. These huge companies, we spoke this past Shabbos about the Toys R Us's and the Blockbusters of the world who fell. They you never think that the World Trade Center would eventually come tumbling down. Before them, we would never even fathom that such great things could fall. But at the end of the day, that the world is spinning. What goes up must come up. Eventually will come down, and the world is continuously spinning, all controlled by the God on top. So he says, this is why we play dreidel on Hanukkah. Hanukkah is linked to the temple, right? The Chanukah HaMizbeach, Chanukah HaBayit. The essence of the temple is linked to the element of the rotating wheel. This is the significance of the Beit HaMikdash. The elevated degraded and the degraded elevated. Just think, this is the ultimate lack of understanding of what is good, what is bad, how you take an animal, you take a lowly animal and you're able to offer that as a sacrifice. The animal is what is able to attain a status of kedusha, so much so that you're not allowed to eat part of it. Just the concept of not understanding of what can be in the world and how the world is spinning, that really it is all in control of the one God spinning it from on top. That is how Rabbi Nachman viewed the significance of the dreidel. And finally, something I saw recently from Rav Meilech Biederman. Rav Meilech Biederman is one of the modern great darshanim in Eretz Yisrael. He is extremely popular. I've seen his talks that they're published in all different languages. I'm in Williamsburg. I've seen them published in Yiddish, and he says them in Hebrew, and they're published in English. It's called Torah Wellsprings. If you want to look them up online, he has really, really beautiful drashot. And so this is taken from one of his pieces on Hanukkah. So he says that the Hanukkah miracle shows us how Hashem can turn a little into a lot. Because there was enough oil for only one day, and it lasted for 8 days. Hashem performs similar miracles when it comes to parnasa. So he says the significance of having emunah when it comes to your parnasa. He discusses that this is the great question that we have to deal with every day. We know Hashem set up a certain amount that we are all set to make in a given year. And the question is, how much hishtadlut, that's your word, how much hishtadlus, how much effort do I need to put in order to earn that which Hashem had set out to me? If I am, the question that arises in the lottery, did God want me to win the lottery? How many lottery tickets should I buy? If God really wants me to win, so it's enough to buy one, and if He wants me to win, that one will be the winning ticket. And so there is this struggle that we should all have, and how much is enough? How much ishtalut is enough to support me to fill the needs that I have for my family? And how much time should I not be working? How much should I be learning Torah? How much should I be devoting to davening? How much should I be set aside for chesed? And these are all the answer.
Can we make a deal? If he gives me enough money, I'll study him all day.
All right,
I could do that one.
Okay, make a deal. Okay,
we're paying. So this is around. Why not? What? Right? No?
So you make a deal. Yeah, go for it.
The lifestyle. Wait. So you have to lower your lifestyle to be happy and not raise your expectations to be happy. That's where we're going.
No, that's not necessarily what we're saying. But there is a struggle that everyone has. How much effort do I need in order to make ends meet, and how much do I have to? Am I supposed to?
Doesn't matter. You don't mind, it doesn't matter.
How much do I devote to? Do I rely on God's hand? So he says, this is actually a footnote in his drasha. So he says the minhag, the custom of dreidel, reminds us of the futility of making extra unnecessary hishtadlut. There was he quoted the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish, also one of the great halachic decisors in the last century. So he said that obviously this is a struggle, and we're only supposed to put in a certain amount. So he said, what's it compared to? It's like carrying a heavy barrel down a mountain. So what is that? That if you put in more than you actually need to, so it's like carrying that barrel, because really if you carry a barrel down a mountain, that seems a little bit foolish because what you could just roll it down. You put in a lot of Hashem will give you what He decided, no matter what, no matter how much effort you put in. So it's up to you to figure that out. If you're supposed to roll it down instead of carry it down, maybe that's what we're supposed to do. Anyways, so he says when people play Dreidel, the hope the Dreidel will fall on the winning letter, the Gimel. That's the hope. You hope you're going to win. However, after spinning the Dreidel, there is nothing. This is similar to what Saul said. There is nothing one can do to increase his odds that the Dreidel will fall on that letter. The Dreidel reminds us that whatever is spinning and happening below is because there's someone spinning things from above. So you start your spin, you put in your effort, but at the end of the day, you don't know whether you're going to get that Gimel or not. You don't know whether you're going to come out on top or not because it's out of your hands. It's all in God's hands. So he says the Dreidel cannot stand on its own. Someone needs to support it from above. This reminds us that we are totally in Hashem's hands. And so these are just some thoughts about the Dreidel. We saw the significance of the structure, the spinning on top. We saw the significance of the letters, and we saw the significance of the motion of spinning, and whether or not the physical Dreidel comes from Jewish roots. It probably did not, but there is tremendous significance in this custom, and we should all appreciate the miracle of Hanukkah when we all go play Dreidel with our family, and everyone should be able to internalize the meaning of this of the Dreidel and have a beautiful Hanukkah. Thank you all for coming. For all those who are streaming in, I'll quickly recap. I apologize for the. You take it home, yeah. Yeah, take it. Enjoy. We'll quickly recap what we had done. I apologize for the technical difficulties that we had. So we started off with the generally understood reason for playing Dreidel, and that was because this was the great trick that the Jewish people performed when they weren't allowed to study Torah. When the Greeks were in control, the Greeks did not allow them to study Torah, so they would take, when the Greeks would come and they would find them, they would put away their books and take out their dreidels and pretend that they were playing dreidels. However, we noted that this custom is actually, have a great night, this custom is actually found in a sefer, in a book that was written only in 1890. This is the first time we find this this reason for the custom mentioned. So it seems pretty unlikely, although this is the reason that we teach all of our children. There are other reasons that are mentioned in various different svarim. One of those is the Bnei Yissaschar. So he says this was he lived in the 1700s, in the late 1700s. So he writes that the reason we have a custom to play dreidel is because we know Nun Gimel Hey Shin stands for Nes Gadol Hayasham. There was a great miracle there in Eretz Israel during the times of the Chashmonaim, during the times of Hanukkah. And so he says the point is that we're supposed to internalize the message, internalize the significance of the miracle so much that we are even thinking about the miracle when we are playing. Even our recreation. It's not just that we think about it during Hallel, when we were praising God for the miracle. It's not just that we were thinking about the significance of the miracle when we are lighting the candles, but even the message penetrates to us even in our recreation, even when we are playing. And that, he says, is the significance of the dreidel. A third reason mentioned by the Sefer Siach Sarfei Kodesh, he says, similar to why we give out candy to kids on Pesach, at the Seder, he says the reason we play dreidel is so that the kids will stay awake. The kids will. This is a greater publicizing of the miracle, so that they can stay up and be around for the candlelighting and internalize the miracle. So he says it's so that the kids a reason for a mode of entertainment for the kids to stay up. However, despite these reasons, we noted that the original source for the dreidel. Just give us 2 minutes. I'll be with you in a second. Thank you. The original source for the dreidel is actually not Jewish in origin. The dreidel is not Jewish in origin. It comes from the Titoda. And it seems that the Nun, Gimel, the Hey, and the Shin are actually just the transliterations of the German letters, the G, which stand for Gans, meaning the Gimel, you get the Gans is the whole thing, you get the whole pot. The Hey is for Halb, meaning you get half the pot. The Nun, or the N, is for nisht, meaning you get nothing if you land on the N, and the shin, or the S, is for shich, meaning to shecharain, to put one piece back. And it seems that this was the original dreidel, and it has sort of been adopted by the Jewish people as the dreidel, but it is not actually Jewish in origin. Nonetheless, there are many great tzaddikim who found tremendous significance in the dreidel, and we should definitely not belittle the custom. There are great tzaddikim who still make a point to play dreidel on Hanukkah because they saw tremendous significance in the spinning of the dreidel. So there are those who saw significance in these letters, the Nun, Gimel, Hey, and Shin. There are some who say that the Nun, Gimel, Hey, and Shin actually stands for the two mitzvot, the two rabbinic commandments that we have, that we perform over Hanukkah. What is that? So the Nun, Shin stand for Neirot Shmona, that we have to light 8 candles, and the Hey and the Gimel stand for Hallel Gadol, that we say Hallel over Hanukkah. These are the two mitzvot that we are commanded to perform over Hanukkah. The Bnei Yisachar, Rav Tzvi Elimelech of Dinav, who lived in the 1700s. So he says that the Nun, the Gimel, the Hey, and the Shin actually stand for the 4 different exiles that the Jewish people went through. The Nun for Nebuchadnezzar, that is the Galut Babylon. The Gimel is for Gog, and that is the Galut of Greece, of Yavan. The Hey is for Haman, which is the Galut of Persia, Paras. And the Shin is for Seir, which is the Roman exile. And he says, and as we spin from one exile to the next, from Babel to Greece to Persia to Rome, the dreidel reminds us that the seemingly random spinning of history is controlled by God's hand from above. And we look forward to the Mashiach. There are some who note that the gematria of the dreidel is actually the same as Mashiach, that is 258. There's also seemingly significance in the fact that we win by spinning a gimel which has a numeric value of 3. There is tremendous value in the number of 3 over Hanukkah because we overcame Yavan, which has 3 letters, also 3 straight lines, which are like 3 Roman numerals, and the Yavanim, who tried to get rid of 3 fundamental mitzvot of the Jewish people. They tried to get rid of Brit Milah, Shabbat, and Rosh Chodesh, 3 mitzvot that kept the Jewish people together. And by spinning a gimel and winning, we are showing how we overcome the Yevanim and all that they tried to do to the Jewish people. And then I think hopefully you were tuned in by this time. We quoted the Sefer Ta'amei HaMinhagim, and this is another Sefer, a compendium of Jewish customs and their sources. So he knows that there's a difference between the Grager, which we spin on Purim, and the dreidel, which we spin on Hanukkah. So he says that on Hanukkah, the nace, the miracle, came from above. That's why we spin it from above. On Purim, the nace came from the bottom. It came from the people. The people had to gather together in order for the Jewish people to be saved. The miracle came from the bottom up, in that we couldn't really see God's hand in the story of Purim. It's only once you put the different pieces of the story together, you put the whole history together, then you were able to see how God had a hand in that. But so that was from the bottom up, as opposed to the dreidel, which is spun from the top on Hanukkah. That was really a top-down miracle. It was clear that we saw God's hand. It was clear that God's hand was involved in the oil that lasted for 8 days. That was an open miracle, and so that was a top-down miracle. That is why the dreidel is spun from the top, as opposed to the Grager, which is spun from the bottom. And then we quoted Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, who was one of the great Hasidic thinkers. So he says that the world is really like a dreidel. The world rotates, the world spins around, and the dreidel represents all that we just do not understand. We can't understand how things that are on high, things that are great, eventually fall, and things that are lowly eventually come on top. We can't understand this concept of Kedusha, how even in the Mikdash, which is what the Chanukah is all about, even in the Mikdash, we can't understand how things so lowly as animals can attain a status of Kedusha, can attain holiness. That is the ultimate. Things that are on the bottom attain such a lofty, such a high status. And so things come and go, empires rise and fall, but ultimately it all comes back to that one point on top, the one being, the one God who is spinning everything, and that, he says, is the significance of the world as a dreidel. And finally, we quoted Rav Meilech Biederman, who says that that the dreidel represents. The whole miracle of Hanukkah really is about how Hashem can take a little and turn it into a lot. He says how this is a struggle that many of us deal with. How much effort do I need in order to make a parnasa? How much effort do I need in order to make ends meet? Hashem had set out a specific amount for me to make at the beginning of the year, during Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and I need to put in a certain amount. But how much emunah do I need to have? How much am I relying on God's hand? So it reminds us that there is only a certain amount of effort that we are allowed, that we should put in. That we could put in only so much effort, and the rest we have to leave up to God. So we could try to get that gimel. We could try to win the entire pot. We could try to win it all. We make that spin, but once it is spinning, we realize that there's nothing more we can do in order to get that gimel. It is all up to Hashem, and that is what he says is the significance of the dreidel, that it is really all in Hashem's hands at the end of the day. Thank you very much for tuning in. Have a beautiful Hanukkah and a great night.